Next, I'd like to continue on to the panel discussion on the perspective of overseas investors and exchange of insights between overseas investors and regenerative medicine venture companies. Dr. Yo Hamaoka, Senior Executive Officer, Member of the Board of Directors, CFO, Takara Bio Inc. Dr. SHIZUKA AKIEDA, Representative Director, Cyfuse. Mr. Shinichiro KOMOTO, Partner, 8 Roads. Mr. Ken HORNE, Managing Partner in Venture Partners. Dr. Daniel KEMP, CEO of Shinobi Therapeutics Inc. And Dr. MASAYA Matsumoto, President and CEO TWOCELLS Company Limited. So we have 6 speakers on the panel. We also ask Mr. Ando, the editor of Nikkei Inc., as moderator. Please come onto the stage, please. In the panel session, there will be an exchange of insights between overseas investors and regenerative medicine venture companies. Now, please have the floor, Ando-san. Mr. Ando, please. So let me continue to serve as a moderator for the panel discussion. And the company, some of the speakers here are those ones who spoke in the earlier session, and also we have investors. So I hope that there will be an active discussion. In the earlier session, there are speakers who did not participate in the earlier session. So let me start with those companies who will make a presentation briefly on their own companies and businesses. And then we will open the floor for discussions. First, I'd like to invite Dr. Yo Hamaoka, Senior Executive Officer, CFO, Takara Bio Inc. Thank you very much for the kind introduction. My name is Hamaoka from Takara Bio. Thank you for this opportunity to speak today. First, let me explain about Takara Bio briefly. Our company was established in 2002 as a spin-off of the former Takara Shuzo Corporation, the biotech business of former Takara Shuzo Corporation, now Takara Holdings Company. In 2004, Takara Bio was listed on the TSE's mother market and is currently listed on the TSE Prime market. And 60% of its shares is owned by Takara Holdings. Headquarters is located in Kusatsu City, Shiga Prefecture. The group has over 1,800 employees worldwide, of which about 800 belong to Takara Bio in Japan. There are 8 consolidated subsidiaries, all of which are overseas subs. Here, you can see the slide which shows the locations of our overseas subsidiaries. We have subsidiaries in the US, Europe, China, Korea, and India, and are ready to sell our reagent products in the major markets worldwide of bioresearch. Regarding the US subsidiary, which is responsible for the development of and marketing of our reagent products, and subsidiary in Dalian, China, is responsible for the majority of our reagent product manufacturing. About 90% of the products are being produced in China, Dalian, China. And below, you can see the overseas sales ratio in the total revenue of our reagent products. In the last fiscal year, the overseas sales accounted for over 70%, or specifically 77% of the total revenue of our reagent products. And on the other hand, the majority of sales in CDMO business, which I will explain later, comes from Japan. Next, I will give you an overview of our business. Our business is divided into 2 main areas. The first is the reagent and instruments business, and the second is the CDMO and the gene therapy business. In the reagent and instruments business, we sell general research reagents used by biotech researchers at universities and companies, and for industrial applications such as PCR test kits for detection of various pathogens and identification of varieties and in vitro diagnostic for testing new coronavirus. And the total number of products is very large, a total of approximately 10,000 reagent products. And for the instrument business, we handle PCR systems and cell analysis systems and other products. Next, CDMO and gene therapy business. Our CDMO business is divided into two main areas. One is what we call contract regenerative medicine products business, where we contract to manufacture regenerative medicine and gene therapy products and their materials, or conduct related quality testing utilizing samples. The other is contract gene analysis and testing, utilizing cutting-edge technologies in which we perform analysis such as NGS sequencing analysis, single-cell analysis, and spatial analysis, and deliver the data to our customers. In the field of gene therapy business, we also develop gene therapy products on our own and develop, manufacture, and sell so-called ancillary materials, which are manufacturing aids such as proteins and enzymes used in the manufacturing process of gene therapeutics and other products. And this is the last slide. I would like to explain the strategy and the direction of our CDMO business. In recent years, due to government subsidies and promotion policies, we recognize that the competitive environment is becoming more and more severe as more Japanese companies enter the CDMO market in the field of cell medicine and gene therapy. But we have over 20 years of experience in development in the field of cell and gene therapy. And we have accumulated technologies, experience, and know-how of manufacturing, clinical development. And by utilizing these, we are proud that we have built an advantage as a top runner in this field. We have beefed up manufacturing facilities in stages since 2014, and we currently have one of the largest facilities and capacity in the field in Japan. And we believe that the technology development is the key. We are focusing on development of platform technologies which can be utilized for regenerative medicine and gene therapy, while developing methods to improve manufacturing efficiency and reduce costs. For example, as you see below on the slide, and these are the technologies that we are focusing on. For example, technologies to enhance tissue specificity of AAV to neurons by manipulating capsid, and also TCR and CAR T cells used in these cells, while maintaining the activities and technology to manufacture highly active CAR T cells in short time. Such platform technologies are developed, and we are offering by combining these with the needs of the customers and offer them as a protocol, and continue to cover and support the development through manufacturing. We call this CDMO plus research, or CRDMO services, and we aim to provide these as comprehensive services to our customers. This concludes my presentation about Takara Bio. Thank you.
Thank you, Yamaoka-san, Mr. Yamaoka. Next, I would like to invite from Cyfuse, Representative Director, Ms. SHIZUKA AKIEDA. Thank you very much for giving me this precious opportunity. I am Akieda from Cyfuse. As a venture of regenerative medicine, we are doing activities, so allow me to introduce our activities at Cyfuse. We are a regenerative medicine venture that aims to create three-dimensional organs from cells found only in the human body and deliver them to patients as regenerative medicine products. Initially, organs were created by hand, but now, because there are some limitations, as you can see in the center, we use the Bio 3D printer. A cell-based 3D printer is the one we use to create organs. As Dr. Sato and others made report, So there are about 20 regenerative medicine area products available in Japan. So they are liquid or sheet types. So those developed from 15 years ago are finally receiving approval. What we are working on is a 3D real organ creation, and we want to have organ to be approved as a regenerative medicine product, and we want to deliver them to wide number of patients. Now our company, we were established in 2010 at the Kyushu University. We have 24 members, and one of the features is we have engineers and biologists within us. So inside us, we are able to collaborate between medicine and engineering. That is one of the features of the company. So far, when we started, 3 to 5 years, we received support from GST, NEDO, AMD, from the AMED, from the Japanese government. But from 2017 onward, we received support from business entities and engaged in joint development. And we have reached current stage. The area that we work on in business are threefold. First, device, bio 3D printers sales, marketing, and drug screening tools development. And we want to deliver regenerative medicine. So we have three-step strategy that we engage in development. So in multiple areas, we are engaged in activities, so we are able to have diverse profit sources. That is another strength of Cyfuse. We have this kind of platform technology, so the three-dimensional tissues and organs are to be delivered to a diverse range of patients. Now, representative example is shown on the screen. What we are showing are three pipelines, and we are engaged in development, and we are working to get approval of them. So nerve and vascular and bone cartilage repair at the same time. We are engaged in development, and by receiving AMED support as a national project, we are working on development of these three. Now, concrete manufacturing flow. As a source, we use autologous tissue or allogenic tissue. You select them. Depending on the disease, there are tissues that are appropriate. So depending on the disease, appropriate cells need to be selected, and 3D tissues are created and transplanted to patients. The most advanced area is a nerve, and the investigator-initiated clinical trial is ongoing, and we are working to put it into practice. Second, drug discovery area. When we started development, this support was provided by NEDO. So only with human tissues, a mini liver was created, and this was sold to pharma company to use this as a tool for evaluating drug efficacy. So in small intestine and skins are being started to be provided to food companies and cosmetic companies. This kind of product has a potential to be used to replace animal experiments. So demand for this product is on the rise. So we have a partnership strategy at Cyfuse. So those are companies with strength in each development area, and we work together. For example, for large-scale, Kaoseja, Fujimori, and Iwatani is the company that we work together in other area. We are at the step 3, and we have a visibility for approval of a product in Japan, and we want to deliver first product born in Japan to overseas. As a team Japan, first regenerative medicine products from Japan to the world is what we want to deliver. Creating hope from cells is a mission that we want to achieve with the entire staff members. We want to create new society, new industry, and for patients, we want to contribute as much as possible. To shareholders who have given us support, we want to provide profit to them, and we want to create a good society. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. AKIEDA, for your presentation. And next, from investor side, 8 Rows Fidelity Partner, Mr. Shinichiro KOMOTO, the floor is yours. Nice to meet you. My name is KOMOTO from 8 Rows Ventures. This is my 8th year at 8 Rows. Prior to that, I was in the trading company in Japan doing healthcare investment for 15 years. So almost 20 years healthcare plus a cross-border making invest to companies, and I was also seconded to the invested companies, and I continued business. This is my career. So this is to introduce the company. Fidelity Asset Management company in the US is leveraged, and we do the venture capital business globally. The United States, China, India, UK, and Japan. Japan is the youngest organization. In every country, we have independent fund, and we take the form of LP. Globally, decision is made, and we also share information. As much as possible, we share the knowledge globally to increase the accuracy of investment. About 50 years ago, we originated the business by making investment in Boston. So as of now, we have $11 billion, which is the largest side with the global footprint. Japan has 75 billion yen. It's been 10 years since inception, and we would like to expand this business. Global healthcare, 233 startups have been invested, and unfortunately, Japan only had 6. The Japanese funds, as long as there is a Japan angle, it is possible to make investment to non-Japanese funds. So we also make investment to 6 U.S. companies. So using Japanese technology, U.S. and American company, U.S. and UK companies are doing business in overseas, and we also make investment to bioventures who wish to do business in Japan. Out of 233, 80 to 90% is what we call company creation, at the stage of company creation or seed round, and making investment for the initial financing. So from early stage to Series A to Series B, we make follow-on investment. This is the characteristic of the fund. Luckily, up to now, out of 233, 79 have been exited already. We have total of 33 products which have been launched already. Globally, we have 80 healthcare team, capitalist 60, MD, PhD 26, and outside, this is outside of this 80 people, but external venture partners in the form of advisors. We have 20 people who serve as advisors of the company. Naturally, not only investment capitalists, but inside the company we have internal counsel, accountants, and as I'm going to explain, since human resources are important, we have top recruiters and headhunters internally. We have science advisory board, and I won't talk about the details. In the US, cutting edge Nobel Prize laureate is included as a part of our advisors. Through their network, when we do the due diligence for each project in the United States or globally, we try to reach out to the right person to listen to their opinions. And we also look at the data that we often cannot see. As I mentioned at the outset, Japan only accounts for 6 out of 233. So I am still frustrated at the moment, but the Japanese healthcare ecosystem is not yet sophisticated. Ecosystem. This is the diagram of the ecosystem. at the time of the launch of the company, fundraising, and continue to do the development of the products, and facing IPO, M&A, and ultimately there will be talent to support and also to activate the company. This is especially necessary in Japan, but in Japan, human resources and fund are the two main challenges. And the human resources will be extremely critical. But in case of Japan, after the company is listed, then there will be another bioventure is not so often started. And on the other hand, this is one of the case studies that we are explaining. But in the United States, so-called, we have made an investment to the base editing technology company, and the company was founded in 2017, and the company went IPO in 3 years. And the total amount of $300 million was financed, and there was a team of 100 people. The founder of the company in 2021 set up another bioventure. So this kind of ecosystem is available. And again, our U.S. team member made investment for the second founding of the company. So there is this kind of ecosystem. Just earlier, there was a speaker, Shinobi Therapeutics, managed by Dan. And between the U.S. and Japan, we made an investment of roughly $30 million. And this was born in Kyoto. And top management like Dan came from the U.S. To do the funding from the United States. So the corporate structure is changed from Japan to the United States. And this ecosystem is already up and running. So this kind of a system is available. We want to make sure to have the circulation of the ecosystem in Japan, but that is a time-consuming process. So Japanese technology should be added on to the ecosystem in overseas countries. That could be one of the options. Of course, Shinobi does have many hurdles to overcome, but through this kind of initiative, Japanese bioventures or researchers may have the precedence to go to overseas, to have courage to them. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Komoto. From AN Venture Partners, Managing Partner, Mr. Ken Hong Kawashima is going to speak.
Here, thank you for the opportunity to let me speak a little bit, very briefly, about AN Ventures. AN Ventures was started 2 years ago, and we launched last year. We're a biotech-exclusive first-time fund, $200 million target, and we saw the opportunity, along with our co-founders, Arch Venture Partners. Arch showed up in Sheen's presentation a couple times there, had a profound interest in basic research being done in Japan. We saw it as an opportunity that many others who were going up and down the Bay Area in California or many in the Kendall Square area were not looking at. And so we thought about how could we institutionally attack and find cool science in Japan and bring that to the global stage. That's essentially why AN Ventures was created last year. Our investment thesis or our fund strategy is to source science from Japan, whether that's company creation pre-IP or whether that's a spin out from large pharma in Japan. We're stage agnostic, but a majority of our fund will look for opportunities coming out of Japan. Now, I think from the beginning of today, Minister Takemi's conversation about where the ecosystem is still lacking, how places like 8 Roads are helping spin the ecosystem forward, we do see limitations and challenges today building biotech companies in Japan. It's hard in the US, we think it's really hard to do in Japan. And so how do we solve for that? There's a chicken and the egg issue, right? Niwatori tamago no mondai. You can't create success until there's success that leads to more success. Everybody who reads stories about Silicon Valley thinks it all got sort of built overnight, but one big success inspires many followers, right? Whether it was Google leading to Facebook, LinkedIn, or Genentech leading to basically South San Francisco being built. So to solve for that, our goal is to build companies kind of like Shinobi, based on Japanese science, but really leveraging the Dan Kemps of the world and bringing US investors to the table. So we build a lot of our companies in the US, and we really want to capitalize them with US investors. When some company like Shinobi gets bought for $1 billion, it'll put Japan on the map. It'll do two fundamentally really important things. First, the US capitalists will start paying attention. Some of us already are, but they'll start paying attention in a big way. Capitalists are very easy animals to understand, right? They go where the money is. Very easy to understand. The other important thing is hopefully a company like Shinobi getting bought for $1 billion means these kind of conferences 5 years from now will be filled. It will inspire the next generation of Japanese entrepreneurs to say, well, Thias did it, it became Shinobi, and then it went public in the US. Why can't I do it? And that's really our long-term goal. For the most part, today, we'll build a lot of our companies in the US, led by US teams. But in the future, like we're talking 5 to 10 years, it's really our fundamental belief. There's no reason domestic Japanese companies can't be built and go public in the US. And if you look at every other top economy in the world, Japan's actually the only exception we can find that doesn't have billion-dollar biotech companies domestically headquartered and listed on a US exchange. That's our long-term goal. It always takes a village. This is part of my village. I have the privilege of leading this team. I'm joined by my partner, Takashi Futami, who many of you probably know. Ari Novacek is a partner at Arch. He also serves as a partner at AN Ventures. And Mike Hiki, our CFO, and one of our newest team members, Shiho Hirose, our analyst, is over here today. Otherwise, really honored to be part of this. And for those of you who are interested in going global, so to speak, one of our initiatives, along with many of our collaborators, is called Science to Startup Japan. It'll be held in Tokyo in November. And so for anybody who's an entrepreneur or interested in the Japanese ecosystem, I encourage you to go check out Science to Startup Japan. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we don't have much time left, but let us proceed to the discussion. Since we have investors on the stage, so the technology of regenerative medicine of Japan, not limited to iPS, but including iPS technology, the level of the regenerative medicine research of Japan looked from globally, is the level high, and is it attractive research done in Japan in regenerative medicine? And do you think there are a lot of potential for growth in the future? There are a lot of discussion. The research ability in Japan has been going down, and there is not so much promising things. There are such pessimistic views in Japan. But Komoto-san and Mr. Hon Kawashima looked from both of you, looking at the Japan's research and the ability to grow potential overseas, and is it attractive to invite overseas investors? So first, Mr. Hon Kawashima, what is your view about this?
英語で返事させていただきます。
So allow me to answer in English.
Absolutely, we think the level of research in the regenerative medicine space in Japan is very high. Probably specifically one of the highest in terms of what we see globally. So I think that's the opportunity. I think the research level is high here. I think the challenge is that we see are some of the regulatory environments, particularly in the cell therapy space in Japan. Ironically, it's one of the few areas where the bar is lower than the US FDA. And what happens when you lower the bar is more things jump over it. Now, fortunately, I think for this conference, the level of companies that are presenting are not examples of those. These are companies that are able to compete and comply with the regulatory standards that the FDA would require, which I'm a big cheerleader for. But I think those are the pros and cons of the space to summarize. I think the level of research in Japan can compete globally, if not is at the top globally. However, in terms of the investors, we see a lot of opportunities or a lot of companies, and not all of them are at the quality that would be able to withhold standards from a U.S. development standpoint.
Thank you very much. As for regulatory challenge, in the US, perhaps the bar is too low, but in Japan, the bar is a bit higher, I guess, vis-a-vis the US. So do you think the one in the middle will be better?
I think so. I think the standards in Japan create opportunities in Japan for commercialization in Japan, and that's not bad. Japan's a big market. So I'm not saying all companies going into the regenerative medicine space should just go for the US. Some opportunities don't justify the cost. Many opportunities do justify the cost, and for those companies, have in mind what GMP manufacturing is going to look like and supply chain is going to look like and what your clinical development is going to look like. Have that in mind from the very beginning.
Well, I would add to that, actually. What we're doing is parallel tracking our regulatory approach both in the US and in Japan. So we're talking to PMDA, and we also have a meeting that we're applied for with the FDA. And so our intention is to make sure that our development path is aligned really well between both Japan and the US so that we can actually leverage the US and Japan in our clinical trial design. So I think that is a way that we can see we can solve that issue, which I do agree with. And then to the other point in terms of research scientists, I think in regenerative medicine, Japan is number one. I mean, I've spent a lot of time when I was at Takeda at Syra, and I think it's the example of world-class iPS cell research science that I've not seen in the US or in Europe. So I think fundamentally the science is here. I think the know-how around how to develop a biotech company and products, that's where the education needs to happen, and I think it will.
ありがとうございます。河本さん、その日本の研究力とあと規制の
Japanese research capability and regulations were mentioned, so could you please?
For you to understand well. Yeah. Yeah, so everyone says the same thing, I think. You know, the Japanese science and the basic research is great, and especially in the regenerative medicine and cell therapy space, everyone, and especially we are receiving a lot of inquiries from global team that, okay, can you reach out to this, you know, the author of this research paper or not, and find if they can make, you know, the company together with us or not. So, but I would say from the business perspective, the Japan is much behind of the other global competitors, even in the regenerative medicine or cell therapy industries. And why? I think there are, you know, a lot of reasons, but again, I want to emphasize two things. The one is the talent, who can bring the basic science, the great basic science, to the true production and, you know, the business stage. And the second is money. And unfortunately, the Japanese, the regulatory environment in the drug price is not attractive for any investors in the biotech scenes. So everyone wants want the Japanese biotech companies to build a business in the United States first, so that they can, you know, foresee the great return afterward. But none of the, unfortunately, not the none of, but the very few people in Japan understands or experience in the developing any, the science or business in the United States from Japan, based on the Japanese science. So again, why the global VCs are so reluctant to make an investment into the Japanese basic science is one reason is because of the talent who understands the building business in the United States.
Can I add something to that, if that's okay? Because I totally agree to your points, and I'd basically say the same thing. And then I've recently got, so what do you mean by talent? Like, there's clearly talented people on stage with us. What does this mean by talent? So I think there's a different skill set. Not I think, there's a different skill set that someone like Dan needs to employ once there's a plan of what I'm going to do with my basic research. So where do we see some of the missing parts is there's great basic research, but the plan and the strategic vision for what we're going to do with that basic research, the translational plan, is often not there or lacking, right? And then there's sometimes insufficient drug development to actually inactuate that plan. But at least sometimes there's a plan. What really makes the American ecosystem hum are executives who understand how risk capital works in stages and how to see a map to get there. Because you don't get $400 million to get from basic research to phase 3. You have to survive multiple rounds of death in fundraising to get there. And I think thinking through that of actually, do I want to spend money as quickly as possible because time is not my friend, and I'd rather find out quickly if I need a pivot, versus I want to try and survive as long as possible because I don't want to fail. And that thought process is very different and very unique to being a startup CEO, and it's compounded by being a biotech CEO because you have all the regulations to deal with it on top of it. So when people ask me what I mean by talent, I don't know what you mean, but that's what I mean. That experience is unfortunately still a little bit missing here.
ありがとうございました。タレントって具体的に
Thank you very much. And what talent means concretely? Yes, that's what I wanted to ask you next. Thank you very much for your explanation. That was clearly understood.
でビジネス
In practice, in proceeding with business in Japan, the talent that you mentioned, and there is also a lack of money. So talent and money are important, and if we don't have any, that is a challenge. AKIEDA-san and Saiso and Matsumoto-san of TWOCELLS, against this hard environment, what can we do in order to overcome them? What do you do? Can you share your thought, please? Thank you. Yes. It is true that the people is very important as I engage in development. We have a team strategy. We also have a partnership strategy. So we collect wisdoms of many people, and many people crack their brain and develop product, and that is our forte. It's very rare to have someone like Otani, the star baseball player, but if you're united in a team and overcome challenges, I think we should be able to play a game in overseas. That's the stance that I want to maintain. Matsumoto-san, what are your thoughts? Yes. As for people in development and business development people, we need both types of people. As for Japan, the people in basic research, be it in a small venture, we have many excellent basic research people. But in the regenerative medicine area, we have to compete for those good people. And the level of salary has been going up for them. So if situation continues, small venture may not be able to pay salary, and they may supply people to a larger venture eventually. So securing development people is another challenge we face. And when it comes to business development, people who are able to talk about business, it's rather difficult to nurture those people in small venture. Or it's not possible. So one way is to utilize agent in such a situation, and if there is a government support to connect, fill that gap, that would be good. And there is a consultation system. So in ecosystem, I hope that there will be support for business area as well, and variety of support started in Japan. And I hope that there will be bridge with the overseas established so that we can have. I hope that there will be more government support to fill that gap when we want to have the inroad into overseas. As Komoto-san mentioned earlier, in Japan, if we don't have money or talent in Japan, we can go into ecosystem of the US and leverage that, and then bring Japanese technology to overseas. That was mentioned earlier. And that's what was mentioned. But looking from different side, it is like bringing Japan technology to overseas one after another. But is it okay? We have to leverage or utilize U.S. system really well. We should utilize the outside ecosystem of the U.S. And as for this strategy, Matsumoto-san, AKIEDA-san, what are your thoughts?
Yes, as a national policy, Japanese technology, can it outflow from Japan? That's one question. But what is important is a good technology should be delivered as soon as possible or to as many patients as possible. Out of such background, if we're able to go overseas and if we can leverage the fund from overseas, that could be a possible option. And if there are proprietary technologies from Japan that we need to protect, we also heard from many presentations today, but we hope that we will be able to have win-win activities from both sides. So we would like to take advantage of that. Akieda-san, thank you for the question. I also feel the same. First of all, to the patients, if that is the best option, then that option should be utilized to do the development. But we started from a small city in Fukuoka, and we are just trying to aim for the World Cup, and also to serve as a Team Japan is also necessary if we think about the industries in Japan. So we need to nurture the talent for the next generation, and we should have the perpetual activities to support that. Of course, we need to take advantage of the case studies from overseas to improve our experiences by also enhancing our presence as well in order to have the global activity understood. Having said that, making effort in Japan and wish to join the ecosystem in the US, but it's not possible to find the best partner so easily. So how should we overcome that, and how can we connect that? Do you have any ideas? At Takara Bio, I think your position is slightly different, but you are working globally. Do you have any thoughts?
Well, this is not a positive response, but we, as a CDMO, only doing this business for domestic Japan market. And because different countries have different regulatory systems, and also we have a language barrier. In earlier session, this was touched upon. I believe that there is the language barrier. And we, in the CDMO business division, we are able to utilize our strengths in Japan domestic market. So we'd have to enhance our position in Japan market and focusing on the regenerative medicine. So we are putting focus on this area to develop further. So I'm sorry, I am not responding to your question based upon the global perspective. Sorry. Then, with regard to the community or ecosystem in the United States, for us to participate in that, which button or approach do we need to have? Do you have any suggestion from Komoto-san?
Investors like us, I think, yeah. So it's quite difficult, again, the chicken and egg problem that we're facing, because I think this is great base science, and this should be the competitive even in the United States. But for the US colleagues, it is still very premature to make any judgment of the investment. So how we can, bridge the gap between those premature or mature So I think I'm still optimistic about that because I was part of the discussion with the government for the healthcare, the ecosystem project team together with the Shiozaki sensei in the Korosho. And we have put 25 suggestions to solve the gap issue. And not only the AMED, but a lot of government, deep pocket, started thinking about how they can fund to those basic science to become mature stage to attract the global investors. So they are thinking about the change the AMED matching fund system to be applied to the little bit earlier stage of the science, as well as they are thinking about creating another deep pocket investment, the fund or grant system to support those basic science to get the mature. So the government and the industry people start trying, thinking seriously to solve this gap issue right now. And it takes time, but if the money comes into those stage, a lot of people start thinking, okay, I'm gonna challenge, by creating this company, using this science, creating a company by using this science, and talk with the international global VCs and see what's the data they need to get the money from them and apply for the grant. So I'm pretty optimistic about the future.
I think that METI-AMED matching program, which we benefited from through the certified investor, leveraging essentially of venture fund investment, I think that is a fantastic idea. And I think if implemented continually, when I talk to investors on a constant basis, they get this is non-Japanese investors, they get very excited about this program, and their perspective of lowering the cost of capital by putting their investment and leveraging, it's extremely attractive. And so I think already this program has opened the door to a significant amount of interested foreign investors. And it'd be really interesting to see over the next few years how that really plays out as a program. But I think it's pretty exciting.
Thank you very much. This topic has been talked about for a long time. We need to create people, and we need to have a practice. And the U.S. is not everything, but we have to utilize U.S. model. That's been talked about for a long time, and yet not much change has been realized. And the AMED and METI initiative can be the trigger for change. That's your thinking, but the size or scale of that is still small, so we need to expand that scale. So Japan is also changing, and we should not rely everything on the Japanese government, but the government policy has also been changing. Do you feel that, Akieda-san, Ms. Akieda? Yes. From AMED, NEDO, and METI, we receive a lot of support from them. So they are really close to us, and they are receiving backup support so that we can bring things generated in Japan to overseas. Matsumoto-san, what's your thought? As for AMED that you talked about, support in funding area is the area that we started to see expansion. That is something that we very much appreciate. In the pharma industry, it takes a long time until we recover the investment. And risk money exists, and the risk in the pharma industry is extremely large. If there is an investor with expert, maybe the level of understanding can be higher, but for those investors who do not have good understanding, then it may take time to recover the investment, and there are also aspects of risk. So as for government support, I hope that the national government provide more funding to more risky areas. meaning that the portion of the national government support should increase. That is something I highly appreciate. We have only limited time since Takara Bio is here with us. So to mass manufacture cell therapy, startup tend to have difficulties or failure in looking at the approval process. That is a bottleneck. Takara Bio has a technology to manufacture cells, and you also do the contract manufacturing. What do we need to improve this area? There are aspects that you can rely on overseas in this area, but what are your thoughts? Can we strengthen this area?
Seeking high quality, as was mentioned earlier, while increasing the scale or to maintain the quality will be the key. So higher efficiency, low cost, maintaining quality, and manufacturing such products will be one of the keys we need to pursue. While we seek a scale up, and in order to achieve cost down, automation, process improvement, those are required. So as our company, those are the areas of focus as well. The others will be talent. Talent is also essential. When the scale gets larger, it is not possible to have a high quality talent only. It was earlier mentioned about the competition over talent. We are also focusing on the acquisition of talent. But when it comes to the education of talent, we have the technical training center internally to provide training so that we can have stable, high quality investigational products or pharmaceutical products. We are now establishing such structure. Thank you. For manufacturing, in case of Europe, the country is also establishing infrastructure such as cell therapy catapult. And in Japan, there is nothing equivalent to that. We have some steps missing in between. But what do you think? It may be something that the private sector will not be able to overcome. For example, something like a union, such as a virus, a vector, and also antibody, pharmaceutical. There are such initiatives within our premise. There is virus, vector development base within our premise. So this kind of a national initiative is making achievement to a certain extent.
ありがとうございました。
Thank you very much. I know that everyone would like to continue on this discussion, but we are approaching the time to close. But if you have any last message or suggestion you would like to convey? If not, then we would like to conclude this panel discussion. Thank you very much. Please give them a big round of applause. Thank you. Thank you very much. Dr. Hamaoka, Dr. Akieda, Mr. Komoto, Mr. Ken Hong, and Dr. Daniel Kim, and Dr. Masaya Matsumoto. Thank you very much. And Mr. Ando. Thank you. Thank you very much.